Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, and you?
Nice, nice to meet you again.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for joining. Hi, Irene.
Thank you, Amina. How are you? You too.
Yeah. Hello. Please just tell us where you're joining from. You can type it in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from. Hello, Bubakar. Sorry if I didn't get your name right. You can tell us where you're
Hello.
joining from as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Bubakar from Togo.
Okay, Abubakar from Togo. It's nice to have you here. Winas, it's nice to have you here. Please endeavor to mute yourself immediately so that We minimize the background noise. Just type in the chat where you're joining from.
Okay.
No problem. I'll check again.
Yes, I love by the video. I have to by the right.
Okay, so we're excited here. We have Abubakar from Togo, Rabia from Nigeria. You're all very welcome. We have Odi from Nigeria as well. Nelson from Nigeria, you're very welcome. We have Oji, Iman Oji, also from Lagos, Nigeria. We are excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. So as you log in, the participants, please just type in the chat and tell us where you're joining from. I can see Ahmed, thank you for joining. Amanda, thank you too for joining. Tell us where you're joining from, please. Hi, Gloria. Gloria is here. Gloria is also one of our speakers. Thank you for joining. Hi, Mariam. Thank you also for joining. Yeah. Hello. Hello, Rose. Thank you for joining. So Rose is actually one of our very special participants today. She is going to be working with an interpreter. She is joining us from Rwanda. Thank you for joining, Rose. We're excited to have you. Wow, we have Sepo Sekola from Lesotho. Thank you. I hope I got that name right. We have Usman. Thank you for joining. We have Veridik. Thank you all for joining. We have, okay. Thank you everyone for joining. Mariam from Nigeria, hello to you. Seppo, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you here. So you can also tell us why you're joining. Oh, Veridik is from Congo, interesting. As you join, tell us why you're joining. It will be interesting to know.
Hello, Amina. Good morning.
Hi, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you for joining. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you too. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Well, at least you know why I'm joining.
Yes. Yeah, you're a very passionate educationist.
Okay, thank you very much.
Please tell us the expectations you have in this meeting in the chat box. All participants, hi, Tolu. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Mukhtar. Thank you for joining. Tell us where you're joining from. Okay, from Nigeria. and tell us what your expectations are from this session. We're excited to have you. So we already have our speakers here, and we are starting as soon as it's 11, we are starting. So we look forward to seeing everybody's expectations. Just type it in the chat. What are you expecting from this meeting? Hi, Amanda from Nigeria. Thank you for joining. Hello. Yes. So we are also very excited to see everyone here. Today is going to have a very strong voice. Yes, as we discuss the education that we so badly desire in Africa. We have our leaders here ready to also enlighten us on all that is required. Teacher Peter, thank you for joining. So Mukhtar says his expectation is to listen to different speakers and learn from them the different approaches they have adopted to solve the problems of education. Yeah, so Mukhtar, we share the same sentiments as well. Hello, Fodio from Nigeria. Thank you. Tell us what your expectations are. My expectations cuts across all aspects like access, quality, and equity. Interesting. So speakers, I hope you're listening. Yes, so it's 12 o'clock and we are ready to start. So welcome everybody. My name is Amina Abubakar. I am joining you from Nigeria. I am an education activist and currently working with FlexiSAF Foundation as the lead for the team. It's really nice to have you here. We are honored to have you here join this conversation. Please always don't hold back your questions. Type your questions in the chat and we are going to answer them. So we also have Rose from Kenya. Rose, thank you for joining. We are excited to have you. We have Muhammad Bukar from Nigeria. He said his expectation is to see the variations of realities of education in different African countries. Wow, so academic. Muhammad, are you some professor? So it's nice to have you here. So we have Gloria Anderson from Tanzania, who is also one of our speakers. They are going to be joining you very soon to introduce themselves. And without further ado, we're going to get right inside what we have for you today. So the meeting is going to take this flow. Firstly, we're welcoming participants and hearing where they're from. This is what we've just concluded. I, the host, would introduce myself and tell you where I'm connecting from. And my organization, FlexiSAF Foundation, prides itself with using innovative approaches to solve educational challenges in Nigeria, especially at the grassroots. We have made tremendous progress in terms of designing innovative approaches. We have the alternative education program called the Accelerated Learning, which is a community school. As we talk, my colleagues will also be typing more details about our foundation. So if you want to find out, please just use the link and find out. And you can always connect with us on our social media handles. They are going to give it to you as well. So one of the objectives of this discussion, of course, is for the participants to get to know each other. We are very excited because we are connecting from all over Africa. Isn't that amazing? If you think that's amazing, just tell that to me in the chat as well. I find it amazing personally. I know that it's a different time from Tanzania and from Congo. So somebody from somewhere should tell us where they are and what the time is there right now. Yeah, it's super amazing, Nelson, because I know in Ethiopia should be about an hour ahead, and some other people are joining all the way from the USA. Wow, we're so honored to have you here today. So without wasting much of our time, please let me tell us some ground rules. So participants, this meeting is designed to be very, very interactive, but to save your time and everyone else's, as much as possible, please leave yourself muted. You can put on your video if you want, but leave yourself muted and try to type in the chat if you have any questions. If you have any particular queries or you want to answer to something, raise your hand and we are going to call on you. But rest assured that we are also going to be reading your questions. Teacher Peter Okware, he said it is 2 p.m. in Uganda. That's amazing. We have Hamid Rufai from Nigeria. I am also connecting from Nigeria, from Al Hidayah Academy. Thank you, Hamid. So just again to remind you, please keep yourself muted and type in the chat. So we're going right ahead into our speakers for today. First, I am going to introduce you to Irene. Irene is connecting from Egypt. She is going to unmute herself and tell you in 1 minute where she's connecting from, who she is, and a little bit why she's passionate about education. Okay, Irene. Okay. Irene, are you there with us? Okay, so before we reach Irene, please, Gloria Anderson, who is connecting all the way from Tanzania. Please, Gloria, let's have you. Gloria, can you hear us? Oh, it's 12:02 p.m. in Nigeria, yes. The same time with Equatorial Guinea as well. Angel Custodio from Guinea. It's nice to have you here. We're excited to have you as well. So next we have Teacher Peter Okware from Uganda. Please unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about you. Teacher Peter Okware from Uganda.
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, Teacher Peter. Are you getting me?
Yes, we can hear you, but it's a little bit faint, but go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm Teacher Peter from Uganda, East Africa. Currently it's 2 p.m. and I'm excited to be here. And I also thank everyone who has tuned in. Yes, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for now.
Thank you, Teacher Peter. So Teacher Peter is one of our speakers and he's going to tell us why he's passionate about education. So Teacher Peter, tell us why you're passionate.
I tell you why I'm passionate about education.
Yes.
I'm passionate about education for one purpose. I believe it's through education that we can transform Africa, or we can make informed choices that can enable us to elevate Africa from where we are to where we want to be, through building systematic changes, and mainly through teachers, because education starts with having quality teachers, and currently we call them team teachers. Team teachers are transformed teachers, informed teachers, inspired teachers, and motivated teachers.
Thank you, Teacher Peter. Thank you. Okay, so we have Ben from joining us all the way from Zimbabwe. Wow, Ben, what time is it in Zimbabwe now? And Donat, it's also nice to have you here. Donat is also one of our speakers here. So Irene, do we have you back?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was disconnected. I'm not sure what happened.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so we need to see you on video and tell us where you're connecting from, what you do. and why you're passionate about education. We're all excited to hear from you today. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm connecting from Egypt. It's 1 o'clock now.
Amazing.
Actually, I'm an associate professor in Nile University in the Industrial Engineering Department. And I'm the director for the Smart Research Engineering Systems Center. And we're doing a lot of research in engineering related to biodegradable products and fabricating new materials. Actually, I'm really passionate about teaching because I feel there are a lot of missing skills that students should know during their school and their lifetime. So I think this is my mission to deliver more about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene from Egypt. We're excited to hear you today. So next we have Rose Nyawoka from Kenya. So like I told you, Rose is a very, very special member of the team today. She is actually not able to speak, so she's going to have an interpreter. And Rose is also going to tell us where she's connecting from, what she does, and why she's passionate about education. Rose, let's have you. Okay. Hi, Dorcas. Thank you for joining. Okay. So Rose, feel free to call our attention when you're here. Then next we have from South Africa, we have Mike Kosana, very popular person in South Africa. And we are excited to hear from you, Mike. So Mike, tell us where you're connecting from, what you do, and why you're passionate about education. Okay, hi, Balpola from Nigeria, just Nigeria. I hope I got your name right. Thank you for joining and for telling us where you're from. Hi, Mike, we're waiting. Okay, so next we go all the way to Rwanda. We have also from our speakers, Donat Mukenga from Rwanda, who is a passionate educationist. Donat, just tell us where you're connecting from, what you do, and why you're passionate about education. Yes, Donat.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's 1 p.m. in Kigali.
Amazing.
Well, my name is Donat Mujenga, as we've just mentioned. At the moment, I serve as the Director of Admissions, Recruitment and Registry at the Rwanda Institute for Conservation and Agriculture. This is an institute without a precedent on the African continent that is reimagining the future of conservation agriculture, food security, addressing all these issues of food supply and climate change on the continent.
Wow,
So,
that's amazing. Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Amina.
you're passionate about education.
Yeah, very much. I've been serving as a member on a different advisory boards, helping to advance education both in Rwanda and on the continent. Part of what I've done before was helping Rwanda, my country, to expand access to university education. There are so many who've been able to establish back some years ago when I was working with the Higher Education Council. And I'm excited to see thousands of Rwandans today being able to access university education.
Wow, that's amazing. Sounds like something very exciting you do, Donat. Okay.
I believe I will have a chance to share more as we go ahead.
You will definitely have the chance to share. So next we have Akua Oforiwa from Ghana. Akua, please unmute yourself. Tell us where you're connecting from and why you're passionate about education. Akua is a journalist, a very popular journalist in Ghana, and she's won multiple awards. and she's a multinational advocate. So Akua, it's not Akuya, it's actually Akua. So that's how it's pronounced. Hi, Amara from Nigeria. It's nice to have you. So Akua, please go ahead. We are listening to you. Okay. Okay, so next we have Makala Sianogwa from Zambia, who is also very passionate. She's a lecturer. So Makala, it's really nice to have you here. Just unmute. Tell us where you're from and why you're passionate about education. We are going into the business of today very soon. So we want to hear from you, Makala.
Hi, Amina. Hi, everyone else. As Amina has mentioned, I am Makala Sianagoa, and I am joining in from Zambia. I work for Rusangu University, where I teach social work. I'm passionate about the well-being of persons and improving it. And really, I feel that education is one way that the well-being of people can be improved, because I believe that education is an equalizer.
Okay. Sorry. So Rose is here. And Rose, we are excited to see you. Hello, Rose. Okay. So we're listening to you. Do we have anybody? Okay. Hello, everyone. Rose is saying hello, everyone. So Rose, do you have anyone there with you as we listen to you speak? Yeah. Okay, we can't hear the interpreter.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, so we can hear Rose interpreter.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have George with me. George is my interpreter.
Okay, interesting. George, it's nice to meet you.
I'm deaf and I'm from Kenya.
Okay, so Rose says she's deaf and she's from Kenya. Her interpreter is George. So tell us what you do, George. Tell us what you do, Rose. Okay. Very interesting.
Okay, yes, okay. I work as a disability advisor and disability and inclusion advisor.
Interesting.
With different international NGOs. I'm very passionate for lobby and advocacy of inclusion of persons with disabilities in every sector.
Amazing.
And mostly on education.
So amazing. We're really honored to have you here, Rose, to share your insights, especially from the disability perspective. So we are all excited to hear from you this morning. So I think we've taken a lot of time introducing the speakers. We'll go right into the business of today. So we have the first speaker with us here. Okay, so Akua says she apologizes, but she'll be with us in a minute. She has some audio issues. We are in Africa, we can all relate, right? Okay, so to the questions of today. So this question is for Irene in particular. Irene, are you there from Egypt?
Yes.
Okay. So Irene, many of us in Africa actually see Egypt as a superior country. We think that Egypt does not have any problems with its education sector, and would like to hear from you today if this is indeed true. Does Egypt also face challenges with its education sector?
Actually, there are definitely some challenges. I mean, development is a continuous process, and education itself is very challenging. So even Asia, America, or Europe are still improving their education system, although they are superior in that. So since the process actually depends on human elements, so definitely people respond differently. And I think we all have challenges in education, although we are trying to improve. So I think there are some challenges in Egypt. Maybe if we think about our ancestors, the pharaohs, they used to include in ancient Egypt philosophy in teaching. Now I think we missed that. So we probably need to go back and try to think of including philosophy, music, art, and drama in all our universities and schools. So some schools are now teaching these kind of things. However, and some universities, however, it's not really popular. Of course, there are some other challenges when we come to the increasing number of students matched with the amount of teachers available or faculty available. So we have definitely overcrowded classrooms, although we're trying to improve the philosophy of teaching and other digital learning like tools, but there are no standard tests. So maybe we need to have like in Finland, for example, they keep the teacher for 6 years continuously with the student. I think at the beginning we need to do that. However, in Egypt, we have like a school teacher every year and they don't continue with the students. So they basically don't know their path to learning and how do they acquire the knowledge and the competencies. So of course, also, this is a problem that good education is not free. So we don't have maybe a relaxed atmosphere. So we have a lot of panic in the exams. There are no clubs for extracurricular activities in schools. This is only found in Egypt, found in universities in Egypt, not in schools. So we probably need to do some reforms. And when we come to this discussion about reforms, I can tell you more about it. So, I mean, our strategy and our plan in 2030, we are trying to approach equal learning for everyone. And we're trying to our best, and the government has set a lot of policies, but we still need to improve.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Irene. Basically, what Irene is saying is that in case if you've joined here and you think that Egypt is perfect in its education sector, she is telling you that she's a lecturer with decades of experience, and that is not true. They have their own challenges, and of course, she has a recommendation as an expert, which she would be excited to share with us today, to forward ahead to the UN headquarters. Thank you so much, Irene. It was really nice to listen to you sharing that. So next we go to Rose from Rwanda. Rose, are we ready? George, you can just speak when you are.
So,
Rose from Rwanda.
From Rwanda or Kenya?
Oh, sorry, Kenya. I apologize. I mean Rose from Kenya. We're ready? There are so many countries here mixed up in my head. Yes. Okay. So we are ready to go. Okay, so Rose, we have an interesting question for you here. So what would you say, because we have watched a few videos that have been circulating online, Rose, about Kenya's education reforms. Even though recently you've seen a few challenges in the sector, but in the past few years, Kenya has indeed made some giant strides in terms of improving its education system. So what would you say has worked for Kenya that other countries should learn, like Nigeria? What would you say has worked, especially in the, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very good question. Actually, Kenya, we have made some changes. In the past, because currently we have to use what we call competence. Now we have what we call competence-based curriculum. That is very good, which is helping the children in the schools, because it focuses more on individual competence, individual interests. Each child has different interests. And unlike before, which education was very standard everywhere, and every student had to learn all the different subjects, and they were not given a lot of options. But now most of the students are given chances or opportunities to choose what they want to learn, to choose their career paths when they're still very young. And personally, I think it is very good. It's a good way to go because education now is individualized. It is not standardized as it was in the past.
Oh,
the only
that's
weakness we
amazing.
have, the only weakness which we have now is that it is a bit costly for some of the parents because most of the learning is very practical, and most of the parents are required to buy materials regularly, so which some of them cannot afford. And we're still learning on how to go about that competence-based curriculum system. And the other process which the country has taken off is dissemination of tablets to the schools. Not all students have actually acquired one, but at least a good number of the schools have received the tablets and laptops for the students.
Okay, so yeah.
So it is becoming a bit digitalized.
Okay.
Because most of them cannot afford to buy the laptops and the books and the tablets, so they are offered for.
Okay.
And it's saving the environment and also making the education affordable to the parents.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rose. Thank you for sharing that insight. I mean, Rose is saying that they are giving a 21st century education already in Kenya. So it's interesting to know that Kenya is actually an African country, and we've reached that strike there. What that means is the children do not get to learn all of the courses that they do not need, but now you have the option of actually choosing what you learn. So if I aspire to be a farmer in the future, I can select courses and the kind of individualized learning that would help me develop the skills to be not just a farmer, but an outstanding one at that. I think many countries should copy from this approach from Kenya. Thank you for sharing that, Rose. So next we go to Donald Mukenga. Okay, Akua, it's really nice to have you here. Akua from Ghana. So just unmute yourself, introduce yourself. Akua is one of our speakers. And tell us what you do in Ghana, Akua.
Okay, so my name, as you mentioned, my name is Akioferiwa Dako, but hello to everyone. I would like to apologize for the delay. It was due to some technical hitches. My name is Akioferiwa Dako. Once again, I'm a Ghanaian broadcast journalist, a communicator, and an advocate for women and children's rights. And I do everything about education. I'm a journalist, so I'm actually not an educational expert, but I can share my experiences with you when I go to the grounds to know the rural areas of Ghana, and we can also make some recommendations to make the sector much better. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Akua, and it's nice to finally have you join us. So we also have joining us from Tanzania is Gloria Anderson. Gloria Anderson, let's hear from you as well.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
thank
Gloria.
you so much, Amina. Hi. Good to see you guys. So I'm Gloria Anderson from Tanzania. I work as Executive Director for Tanzania Enlightenment Development Innovation, a solely focused organization that works in the improvement of education in Tanzania. And basically, we work in the area of education transformation by integrating digital skills in the education system in Tanzania. I'm very happy to hear from my colleagues from Kenya on the policy of digitalizing education by providing tablets. That's a very good one, and I think most of the countries, most of the African countries should really adapt from Kenya. And yeah, so I work by mainly one of our major projects is computer labs for public schools, basically those who are from the ones that are from low resource areas. We do establish computer labs, providing capacity building for teachers, as well as establishing ICT clubs. And that is my major focus for education transformation. If you ask me what it entails, I will tell you education, as one of the speakers has said, education right now is more of individualization than general. And so digitalization is the best way of transforming education. Yeah, thank you so much, Amina. I think it is only introduction.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gloria, for sharing that insight and also validating what Rose shared about Kenya. We also agree. So in the chat, please feel free to say whatever you want in the chat. Let's make this conversation extremely interesting. And as the speakers share their insights, also ask your questions so that we can throw the questions on time. Yes. So now we are going to hear from Mnet. Unfortunately, we can't have Juwairiya here. Juwairiya is a member of parliament from Ethiopia, but we have Mnet joining us from Ethiopia. And Dr. Mnet is going to introduce herself, tell us what she does and why she's extremely passionate about education. Juwairiya sends her apologies. It's really beyond her control. Go ahead, Mnet.
Thank you, Amina. I'm glad to be here. I'm Mnet from Ethiopia. I'm a clinician by profession and also a lecturer and the head of my department in my college. I teach medical students and I'm greatly passionate about education since education is the core component of all sectors. We need some degree of literacy in order to advance and in order to improve qualities of all the sectors. So I'm greatly passionate about ensuring quality of education, especially medical education at college level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mnet. We're really excited to have you here and we really can't wait to hear from you. So now we go into our next question for Mike, for Donat. So by the way, Donat is joining from Rwanda. Let me remind you that we have Irene from Egypt, we have Gloria from Tanzania, Mnet is from Ethiopia, Teacher Peter is from Uganda, Makala is from Zambia. We are so excited. Akua is from Ghana. And we also have Muhammad Kamara from Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is not too far from Nigeria. And that is why the time zones are also extremely similar. So we are going right into the next question for you. I hope you can hear us, Donat. So Donat, yes. Do you think that we also see that Rwanda has made some giant strides in terms of education? What do you think is the main thing that Rwanda prioritized to get there? Because there are so many other African countries that are far, far behind. And recently we had a very interesting conference in Rwanda, which was the talk of the globe. So would really be interested in hearing from you, Donat, as to what it is that Rwanda did to get to that kind of position in the world. Go ahead, we can hear you.
Well, thank you very much, Amina. It's a pleasure to join the meeting. Yes, Rwanda has been intentional on investing in education, and we've been partnering with private sector development partners to be able to be where we are. So that intention has been fundamental for the government to be able to increase access to education. As we speak now, over 98, nearly 100% of our kids are able to enroll in primary education. So what the government has done is actually to create an enabling environment in terms of policy formulation, strategy, implementation, and being intentional in investing in making access to education available from primary basic education, which is up to completion of secondary education, which is free of charge across the country. And the government has been constructing schools across the country in every corner of Rwanda. You can find a school to enable, to make sure that every single young men and women, child has access to education. And that has been the same at the university level. We've been attracting foreign universities to establish their campuses over in Rwanda, and we have many of them. So basically what Rwanda has done is to create an enabling environment for private sector and development partners to be able to establish educational institutions. And it has intentionally invested a lot in, building schools across Rwanda.
Okay, thank you so much, Donat, for sharing that. As a matter of fact, Nigeria has the highest number of children that are out of school. And to just hear that Rwanda, right next to, well, not right next to Nigeria, but not very far from Nigeria, from the same continent, it has less than 10% of its children not able to access education properly. I mean, that is very inspiring. And I hope that Nigeria also learns from Rwanda's approach of making education policies, firstly, friendly, and then making that education possible and worthy of their time. Because not only is it that there is a problem with access, we also have a major challenge of quality. Because UNICEF reports in 2022 state that more than 70% of the children who attend Nigerian primary and secondary school, they are in school, but they're not learning. I mean, that is really something to cry about. So thank you, Donat. Now we are ready to hear from Makala from Zambia. So Makala, myself personally, I know that Zambia does not make a lot of noise, especially about its education, and would really love to hear from you about what Zambia is currently doing. And Makala, are you there? Hi, Makala. Okay. Okay, so we have some challenges with Makala. We have Mohammed Kamara from Guinea-Bissau. Okay. Mohammed Kamara from Guinea-Bissau. Hello. Okay. So we go on to Akua from Ghana. So Akua from Ghana, please, would like to hear from you. Of course, according to facts and according to your own point of view, you said you go to the grassroots. So you've been able to see challenges, and from your own area of expertise, which is women and girls, would really like to hear from you as to what you think Ghana can do to achieve educational transformation, aligning with UNESCO's vision for education transformation for the next 5 years. So what do you think Ghana can do to achieve educational transformation?
Okay, thanks so much for the question. In terms of educational transformation, I think Ghana has actually come a long way. Looking from the 19th century to the 21st century, we've seen how evolving education has become. But one major issue that myself, for instance, when I go to the field, I think we lack is equity. So equal access to education is actually hampering the development of education in Ghana, most especially. And when you go to the rural areas, you can tell that most children aren't able to, in terms of access, don't have schools that are closer to their communities. So it's either they have to work for long hours, and this is something that has been in existence for so many years. So if we are in the 21st century now, and we are still facing the same problem, then it's an issue. If we're talking about educational transformation and children in rural communities don't have equal access to quality education, then there's a problem. You see children walking to school and it's either they get to school dirty, some have to cross rivers to school. You can just imagine, even including teachers. So then if teachers are being posted to these communities, do you think they would even accept these postings to the rural communities? And I think these are some of the things we should be looking at. Children, most especially, go to school. Well, even those who are fortunate to have schools in their communities, wake up in the morning and they go to school and sit under trees to learn in this 21st century. And it's a huge problem. Others go to school, they sit in buildings, but there are no chairs, so infrastructural issue. There are no teachers to even come and teach because no one wants to go to a school whereby they would have to cross rivers. No one would want to go to a school where they would have to walk hours to school and go and teach. So these are some of the issues we face. And sometimes it saddens most of us, you know, as a journalist, you're being told not to really, well, you need to report the issue as it is, and you don't have to feel emotional about certain things. But to some of us, the moment you become an advocate, you need to. So we tend up becoming so emotional about it, and through that we are able to bring out the report so well, so they know the actual thing that's happening. And so in terms of equal access to education, there is an issue. There is a big issue in Ghana. And when it comes to young girls going to school, you know, having a safe and sound environment to study, there's one issue in terms of health that comes in. Most of these children don't have access to, they can't even buy sanitary pads. So this is the health aspect of education that we need to look at. For the one that affects young girls, they don't have access to sanitary pads, so then they would have to stay at home anytime they are in their menstrual period, and this is actually affecting their studies. And it's a trend that is, you know, becoming worrying. And apart from that, access to potable water when they go to school, even when they are home, it's an issue. And when they go to school, a place that should be at least safe and sound for them to study, the hygienic situation should be conducive for learning, it's not there. There is no access to potable water when children go to school in most of these rural parts of Ghana. So these are some of the things that we tend to experience when we go out there to report on issues. And I think we all collaboratively, we all need to come together and you know, make sure the sector becomes much of a good one. There are so many issues, but these are the little I can touch on for now. Thanks so much.
Akuya, thank you so much for that, because I was really enjoying seeing your passion as you spoke about that. I mean, many people also think that Ghana does not have educational challenges. We know some people in Nigeria actually leave their country to go to Ghana for university, and then here Akuya is telling us that some of them do not even have access, and many of them have a lot of infrastructural issues as well. So we have a long way to go in terms of educational transformation in Africa in general. And thank you for your passion. I absolutely agree with you that journalists should try and report things as they are so that we hold governments accountable. Thank you. So now we are going to Makala from Zambia. I hope you've been able to join us, Makala from Zambia.
Hi, Amina, I'm back on. Sorry, I had a connection issue earlier.
Yeah, we are all in Africa, and we can we can relate to challenges with network and so on. So yes, Makala, you're actually a lecturer at the university, and it will be interesting, firstly, for you to shed light on what it is for the university sector in Zambia. We don't hear about Zambia very often. In Africa. Absolutely, we agree with you, Joanna, that educational equity is absolutely paramount. So what would you say about higher education access, firstly, in Zambia? And what has really been, has Zambia seen a great fallback in its tertiary education system due to COVID-19? Yeah, Makala, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Amina. I'll start with the issue of access to education, higher education.
Makala, we can't see you.
Because of the connection issue, sorry, Amina, because of the connection issue.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay.
Yes, so in terms of access to higher education, in Zambia, I think that in recent years, we have seen an increase in terms of establishment of universities. And I think that the larger part of this is, you know, owing to government policy that encourages private businesses and individuals to establish such institutions. However, even though we have witnessed this rise in, you know, establishment of universities and colleges and all that, we still have a challenge because of the socioeconomic status of the majority of Zambians, because tertiary education is not necessarily cheap. In the public institutions, we have bursaries and loans that students would have access to, and the percentage of sponsorship may differ in terms of others are on 50% sponsorship, depending on their circumstances, all the way up to 100%. So access is still a challenge because the majority of Zambians may not be able to afford those fees, and bursaries and sponsorship are not enough to cover the students that are needy and need access to that. It's difficult to discuss higher education without touching the area that feeds into higher education. In Zambia, in the recent past, government has increased access to primary education, which is basically, you know, the foundation of what feeds into secondary and then eventually tertiary education. So I can say that in terms of access to education, the government has started a plan where public funded institution would be able to offer education for free. So as far as primary education is concerned, the government has been able to open that up from early childhood through to 7th grade, where education would be free. We are hopeful that this will be extended through to secondary education and eventually tertiary education, so that that access is not limited by one's access to resources. So I'm happy that at least we are not where we should be, but we have done something in that direction from the pool from which tertiary education taps from. The second part of the question was referring to the effects of COVID-19. Yes. I'll be honest with you, it was hard for tertiary institutions because COVID presented some complex, you know, situation and environment through which education and just members of the society needed to actually exist and survive in. One of the biggest challenges that came along with COVID-19, apart from the public health issue, it was the issue of economic survival. People lost jobs, businesses were closed, and like I mentioned earlier, you know, these things are interrelated and you know, interdependent. So if people are having issues in the economic realm of their lives, then, you know, the first priority comes to, are we able to access food? Before people can think of education and access to healthcare and whatnot, they're thinking, are we able to eat? Can we afford shelter? So the little income that families would get would go to taking care of the basics, food and shelter and healthcare, because it was a health crisis. So those are the issues that were being attended to the most. So we saw a drop in terms of registration. My own institution suffered quite a bit because we saw that students who were already enrolled in the university were struggling to register each semester when we opened, because they did not have the resources to pay for that education. So COVID-19 really did present a challenge for survival, especially for the privately owned universities. The university where I work is a privately owned university, meaning that we don't receive government grants per se. So survival became difficult because a larger part of your income would come from students' enrollment and their fees and all that. So it was a difficult period for tertiary education. But seeing that the COVID-19 situation has improved greatly, we have already started to see a change in terms of students who were already enrolled coming back and new students beginning to enroll, because the economic situation also is improving, seeing that some of those restrictions and regulations that were governing how we operated during COVID have been lifted.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Makala, for that insight. I think that across the globe, everybody has had to say something about the effect of COVID-19 on their education, but we're glad to see that, like you said, there is actually some improvement right now on the student enrollment, and it's especially a hard hit for the public schools, not for the private schools, not just the public schools as well. So that is a very nice perspective to see from Zambia, especially because we don't hear about Zambia's education quite often. So we have an interesting question from Mukhtar, and then this question goes to Gloria, who spoke about the innovation that is being used to tackle education in her country. So Mukhtar says, you talk about digital education. So I would love to know the feasibility of such innovative programs, especially that they depend on access to mobile networks, which may be restricted in some settings, especially in rural areas in Africa. Gloria, are you there to respond to Mukhtar's question?
Yes, Amina, thank you. Sorry, I will put my video off so that it doesn't take me out again. Again, I'm just showcasing that we are having issues on mobile network.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, that's a very good question, because when we are discussing on the issue of education transformation, especially in the 21st century. It's very confusing at some points, because, as African countries, we are admiring to get to the level of digitalization in the education space. But to be honest, that might sound as a very big step for us, because we have not even covered the issue of access to education, just the normal education. We have not finished the coverage on the issue of having the proper infrastructure. We have schools where students are sitting on the floor, We have schools that do not have walls. We have a lot of other infrastructural issues. So in many cases, when we speak of education transformations by looking at digitalization,
Sorry about that. Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So many times when we speak of digitalization in the issue of educational transformation, it sounds as if we are aiming higher to a level that we cannot really achieve easily because of the issues, infrastructural issues we have with internet, infrastructural issues we have with the mobile network, and also access to electricity. Because I've been speaking of computer labs, but when you speak of computer labs, right away, you're speaking of electricity. How many schools have access to electricity? Not only electricity, but also even just having solar power is also an issue. But will it be helpful if we are not stretching ourselves to that level and stick with the normal, I would say the normal challenges we have been having that are more infrastructural? Because speaking of education development is a global agenda. It's not only an African agenda. Most of us here have gotten opportunities to engage with different people from different countries. You've traveled to countries across Africa or outside Africa. You have seen how the education systems are in these countries. And if we want to level up to the global levels of educational development, we also need to stretch ourselves. It's true that our mobile network infrastructures are not okay, but what are we doing about it? It's true that we are still having issues of having desks in the classroom. But if we stick into that, will it take us into the global development and into the attainment of sustainable development goals by 2030 as a continent? So whenever I get time to speak of this, I normally get back into our government. I know maybe we have some governmental representatives here from different countries and ministries of education or institutions that are really working into the budgeting and implementation of curriculums, budget on the implementation of different agendas, country agendas, community level agendas, regional districts on education matters. It is high time we as educational practitioners to start making sure that the policies that are being put into practice into our countries are the ones that will level up our education into the global development that we want. Because if we keep on saying that we cannot have this kind of innovation because we have issues of electricity, we have issues of mobile network, we will never stretch ourselves to that level. And our education systems will still be lagging behind. So getting into the policies and basically the budget for Ministry of Education or institutions that are really into implementing agendas, development agendas on the education spaces in our country. Okay. We need to make sure that whatsoever is in the policy is the one that is being implemented. Because we have had issues like in my country, Tanzania. Last year, the Minister of Education has run a lot of workshops with different education stakeholders discussing how we can revive our education curriculum for it to match the need in the 21st century. But surprisingly, what we found is that the education curriculum of Tanzania is having all the requirements and all the needs and the skills that are needed in the 21st century. Speaking of digital literacy, speaking of financial literacy, speaking of entrepreneurship, speaking of innovation, and all other skills that you think will be needed in the 21st century for young people to be innovative and competitive. It's there, it's written. But what is being implemented, yes, but what is being implemented is different from what has been written. So as we are pushing the policy agenda, we just have to make sure that what is being written is what is being implemented in the local communities so that we can align with the global development.
Thank you so much, Gloria. That's said with so much passion. You know, Gloria was actually answering the question and hammering on a lot. And then to respond to your question, Mukhtar, what Gloria is saying basically is yes, she indeed agrees that interventions like digital technology might not be completely feasible in some areas, but what she's saying that is not an excuse to advance together with the world, especially because we have SDG 4 targets to hit ahead of 2030, which is forming the major part of this conversation today. Thank you so much, Gloria. I also like your point around policy implementation. Here in Nigeria as well, we do not have challenges when it comes to influencing policies. We have a very robust curriculums to serve all of the tiers of education. However, it is in the implementation that we always have the challenge. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. So right now, I want to go to Teacher Peter. Teacher Peter is from Uganda. So Teacher Peter would like to hear from you, Gloria shared and Makala shared too. We actually have seen a great setback with the onset of COVID-19, and Uganda, personally, I want to believe that it's a rich country. So what would you say from your perspective, Teacher Peter, should be our focus for educational transformation post-COVID-19 in Uganda. Teacher Peter, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, please share with us.
Thank you very much. Am I clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I firstly appreciate all the speakers. They have given a lot of insightful information. And I think I'm going to take like a week to digest whatever they are sharing, simply because it's a lot. And also the chat room is boiling. Yes, it's greatly boiling. And this is a kind request, kindly, Amina, don't forget to share maybe the link so that those ones who haven't watched can get a chance of seeing the recorded session.
Absolutely.
Yes. And thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, Flexi, for this opportunity. It's a very good platform. Now, to start with, COVID-19 was an opportunity in disguise. Or yes, like personally, I lost a father during the COVID period. And I lost so many people. I lost two relatives, close relatives in my family, my father and my uncle. But it was also an opportunity for us as the entire world to learn, to restructure, redesign the way how we do things. Now, one of the things that I observed, like whenever people are talking about education, majorly, so many people talk about education out of passion, and others talk about education out of profession. Now, when a person is talking about education out of passion and profession, it simply means they have a clear picture. Now, there are those who talk about education because it's just a mere job to them. It's a mere job for survival. And you find, I'm very sorry to say this, you find that that's the biggest population of people who are controlling the policy drafting and all that in so many nations. To them, it's just a mere job. But at least one of the things that I'm going to focus on, which I would like us to greatly think about, what would have learned from COVID and how would have made things better, not only in Uganda, but all over. What is the first thing is, these are questions that at least everyone should think about. I'm going to just use only 2 minutes. The first thing should be, what is the background of education? What is the main objective of education? Now, that is number one. Ask yourself, have you ever taken time to find out why was education invented in the first place? Then the second thing is, we should ask ourselves, there are 2 types of education which we know, like, or which we use at TAIN. Currently, I'm at our center in Uganda. This is the Teacher Development Center, and this is one of our demonstrational classes where I am right now. But we have 2 things, or the way how we categorize education. We have what we call education, qualification-based education. That is number 1, qualification-based education. You study with an objective of just getting a qualification. And solution-based education. You study with an objective of being able to provide solutions. So which type of education are we providing in so many countries? And which type of education are our stakeholders promoting? Is it solution-based education or qualification-based education? And which one works? Which one? So that's a question. Then the other thing is, I'm not going to share so many insights, but these are questions that I would like us to think about so that all people will get to understand what do we need, right? Then access. There are 2 things in life. There's what we call access and control. Does everyone have the access and control to how we can make education better? Or there are certain people who have the access and others just have the control, or there are people who have both access and control. It's a lot if I start talking about access and control. Then the third thing, or my final submission or question that I'm posing to everyone here and all the leaders, are the drivers of education. The drivers of education, according to Teachers in Need, there are 4 drivers of education. The first driver of education is the population. The second driver of education are the resources. The third drivers of education are the teachers. And the fourth driver of education is the will. Now, briefly, the population, look at yourself and your country. Depending on your population, do we really have, does our population match with our resources? That's a question for you and me. Do our, like in Uganda, that the population match with the resources? In Nigeria, with a population of 200+ million people, does it match with the resources?
Okay,
Then,
so Teacher
from
Peter,
there-
we've heard a whole number of questions from you, and it's really interesting to hear that education should actually be seen with an objective from day one. So basically, if you're enrolling children in school, you should be deliberate about it, not just saying that children should just attend school and that is it. So what would you say in about 30 seconds, Teacher Peter, what would you say your #1 recommendation for Uganda in terms of educational transformation COVID-19? What is your #1 recommendation, especially as you would like to tell the UN? Yeah.
All right. I think our number recommendation would be everyone, like all the stakeholders, the parents, the government leader, the government, the policy drafter, those people, policy implementers, and the policy makers to come up with one thing on how we can invest in solution-based education, not just qualification-based education. That's it. Thank you.
Wow, that's a really, really powerful one. So Teacher Peter is saying that we should invest in a solution-based education, not a qualification-based education, which many of us are going after. And if we invest in a solution-based education, it means that we'll be raising generations of leaders who are not only here to solve the global problems, but who are here to bring in a lot of progress to our educational challenges. Thank you so much for sharing that, Teacher Peter. So without wasting much time, we would like to head over to Mnet, all the way from Ethiopia. So Mnet is also a lecturer in the College of Medical Sciences, and it would be nice to hear from Mnet because she is definitely one who would give insight into COVID-19. She is not only in the education sector, but the health sector as well. So Mnet, first question is, what would you say was the major setback when COVID-19 hit in Ethiopia's, especially medical school? Because we know that the medical school, as much as possible, should try not to be interrupted because of the kind of studies that they're going through. And then what would you say is your major recommendation for Ethiopia in terms of educational transformation, as we would like to relay that to the UN?
Thank you, Amina. I'm mindful of our time.
Yes.
So during the COVID pandemic, we have faced many challenges. One of it is disruption of the education, especially in Health Science College and Medical College. We quit every activity because of the contagious nature of COVID. By nature, the medical education needs more of practical activities. So disruption of these all activities decrease the quality of medical education, and we need to postpone all activities for later years. This created huge gap in level of education and literacy in our students. So apart from the drawbacks, we have got many opportunities during this COVID pandemic. The first opportunity is rather than bringing the students to school, we try to bring the school to students' home, which will give us a chance by which the student can learn with being with families, with their comfort zone. And also utilization of these technologies. It was the technology era for education, so that was the other opportunity. The other opportunity was budget shift. As you know, COVID pandemic needs more budget, focusing on improving access to healthcare. So the education budget completely shifted to the healthcare budget, which was one advantage. And it paved the way for holistic approach of education, which means students get a good health protection in their home with their comfort zone, as well as their psychological makeup with their family will be good, and also they get adequate food access. So these were the opportunities. In Ethiopia specifically, our government took many steps to tackle this COVID-related limitations in education after the COVID pandemic. So currently we established a steering committee at federal and regional levels. And also we have technical committees to catch up with those educations. We used a block course model, and also we are using plasma model, which is a television-based education, which doesn't require network or any other issues related to technology. It needs only television and access to that channel. It's also free. So the government is distributing this television and other related materials like dishes to rural village households in order to catch up this gap during the COVID pandemic. And also we are focusing on quality by introducing monitoring and evaluation tools regularly. We are trying to ensure the quality of education.
Oh, that's really amazing, Mnet. Also, thank you for timing your contributions. So basically what you're saying is the government is really doing a lot to address especially the issues not only that have been existing, but were created due to COVID-19 through creating free channels that do not need internet, and also through distribution of information. So thank you very much for that insight from Ethiopia. So right now we want to go back to Rose from Kenya. Let me remind you that Rose is a bit disabled as well because she cannot speak, and so she preferred to share her insights directly. So Rose says, to make inclusive education a reality, firstly, there are very few schools with people with disabilities in her country. So for example, they are also having a lot of network hitches, and that is why Rose interpreter could not connect on for a long time. She said regular schools are not accommodating of children with disabilities. Although the UN pushes a lot on inclusive education, there is no school, by the way, she's backed up with data, that is completely inclusive of children with disabilities. She said that the UN should make this their agenda for the next 5 years to prioritize inclusive education, especially for children with disabilities. Rose, thank you for sharing that with a lot of passion. It is really nice to hear from you, and we will completely agree with what you think would be one of the most important points that we should focus on for educational transformation for the next 5 years. So right now we are heading on to Mike. Mike, do we have you here, please? Hello, Mike from South Africa. South Africa is one country that many of us actually want to listen to. So please, Mike, do we have you here? Okay, so Mohammed Kamara from Guinea-Bissau would also like to hear from you. Mohammed, please just unmute yourself. Let's hear from you. Okay, Mohammed. So right now we are going back to Irene from Egypt. Irene started sharing some really good points at the beginning. And right now we come back to you from Irene. We would like to hear from you what you think. Irene, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Actually, she is Dr. Irene, and she's about to become a professor. And let me remind you that she's also very young. So Irene, is really nice to have you here. Yes. So also a lot of participants are agreeing with what Rose said about the UN actually not only advocating for inclusive education, but also making it a part of their discussion on the Leaders' Day at the UN Transforming Education Summit happening in a few days, especially on Monday. So we'll make sure that this report reaches them before Monday. So Irene, firstly, I'd like to ask you two questions. Do you think that, according to the UN's recommendations, Egypt is ready to hammer on its goals ahead of 2030, SDG 4 goals? And secondly, what would be your recommendation for educational transformation for the next 5 years in Egypt, specifically to Egypt? Yeah.
Thank you for your sweet words, Amina. So I'll start by saying Egypt is definitely witnessing a comprehensive renaissance, actually, to reach the sustainable development goals and to have a better well-being for humans and better education. I think this is because we have government policies that matches and align with 2030 plan. But maybe we have some hindrance due to the political reasons and the financial problems that are currently happening. And I think also due to the external factors of energy crisis and the war between Ukraine and Russia. So probably the plan was going very well until these things happened. So we're trying to have more ranking in the universities level to be a worldwide, all our universities to be worldwide ranked. So maybe this is one thing to show that we have a good quality of education without any discrepancies. I think also one of the main things that would help us that the government now is having subsidies to less privileged people so they can actually have good education. They are trying to develop the existing they are still okay. They are still trying to develop the existing schools to match all the changes that happened with the online and with the COVID and so forth. And I think also the main thing that we are trying to add some innovative and creative ideas in learning. And probably one of the main things that is really helping us to apply to the 2030 plan and the SDG 4 is that we have now equal opportunity for both girls and boys to learn. And of course, during the COVID, we also had, the government had real connections with the telecommunication firms and several companies, and we were able to provide free internet for everyone so that they could be able to have the process of learning as smooth as possible. So maybe this is my answer for the first question. I would like to go now to the second question about the recommendations to the UN, and I really have a lot of recommendations. Actually, I'll try to sum up. Basically, during this COVID thing, and we have like the opportunity to reevaluate all our processes in education. So I think the main recommendation to the UN is we have to adapt to the local market needs of Egypt. I mean, we have a big skill gap. Basically, technical language, critical thinking, higher skilled jobs that are needed for higher skilled jobs, and maybe computational thinking. We have a lot of gap in this area. So this is my main recommendation. I mean, we had a lot of governmental initiatives like, for example, ETIDA. ETIDA is the Information Technology Development Agency in Egypt. And they are training a lot of people and a lot of sectors from schools and from universities in order to have this skill gap avoided. However, still we need a lot of work on that. Of course, there is this idea of implementing learning villages where the mom and the child will learn together. And this is a very good initiative. I think the government is really successful in that. So maybe this is another recommendation for the UN, is to have these learning villages like more spread. Also, there must be another transformation for acquiring life skills. We have to create active learning. Somehow, we have to have this idea of the flipped classroom more generalized, like it would be an interactive work group with the faculty or the teacher and the student, and it would be like project-based. They would, the students would read before class, and then they would come and ask questions, not the teacher explaining all the time. So this innovation in education is really needed. So I really recommend it for the UN. And of course, as you mentioned, the inclusion of those who are physically challenged, this is very important. And we lack that in Egypt. And I mean, even my nephew had like a thesis in her graduation project in the university, in the American University in Cairo. They were discussing that these NGOs that are trying to have this inclusive activity for all the different sectors and different people, they still need to work on it, and we still have a lot of gap. And most of the children or the people who have physically disability, they are trying to move away from Egypt so that they could have better education. So we need really to solve this problem. And of course, the training of faculty, we need to select the right people to become teachers. And probably all of us in all countries are now able to find out that we need to be agile and we need to transform and change according to the circumstances. We've had climate change issues, we've had COVID, and we need to really get to be running and applying these changes. So improvement for the infrastructure is really needed. Some curriculum revisions are really needed. We need to raise the awareness of why the importance of education. There is now an open door policy in most of the developed countries that the student would have a personalized learning. Every student can learn at their own like skills and move forward when the objectives are achieved. So, but this of course needs a lot of resources. We cannot generalize this, but I'm sorry for being long, but these are mainly my predictions. Thank you so much.
We were really listening. We were really listening keenly to your recommendations. I mean, they're really, really powerful. I agree with your point on computational thinking because our accelerated learning program here in Nigeria, we introduced computational thinking. And what is amazing about it is we were able to deliver the computational thinking curriculum without needing internet or any, it's a very low tech kind of project, which I think is very feasible for Africa. So if we have been able to do it across Africa, this is something that should be achieved. And another amazing thing about it is that the students actually record tremendous progress in some other courses as well. So they are able to improve in literacy, numeracy, not just in terms of digital technology. So thank you for sharing that, Dr. Irene. It's really powerful. And I hope that the educationists that are on this call hear Irene's ideas as well and also implement some of her recommendations. So we go back to Mike. Mike, Donat, sorry. So Donat, there is a question for you from the audience. So they're saying that it is really amazing that you shared that your curriculum was reviewed to accommodate 60% practical courses. Is there a way that we can actually help adapt this? So they're asking if they can also get your email so that they can reach out to you directly. Donat, if you're there, you can just help us respond to that question in about 30 seconds, how it is possible to have a curriculum that accommodates 60% practical courses. I think is a really important point and something we should prioritize for educational transformation as well.
Thank you, Amina. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We're having network challenges all across Africa, huh? Well, we can hear you now.
Okay, sounds good. Well, the review of the curriculum, I would have to clarify, this is at the institutional level at the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture. But the intention behind the structure of the curriculum is to prepare our students to be job creators, which is the ultimate goal of RECA as an institute. And what we're doing is to make sure that we are spending much time training our students to be able to gain practical skills they need to have the capacity to do what we want them to do upon graduation. And the curriculum has been intentionally structured as such. We involved very largely the stakeholders, the business people to work with us to prepare our students. But at the national level, what Rwanda has done very recently, in fact, it must be this year, there is a new law, education law, that has a new aspect on the professional higher education. And what it entails is actually... Isa! Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. Please go ahead.
Thanks.
Sorry about the interruption. Yeah.
Yeah, so at the national level, as I was saying, what the government has done is to amend the education law And we have a new aspect of a professional higher education. And previously, we had the general education and technical education. The professional education has been incorporated into the provisions of the education law to create a space and encourage universities to work hand in hand, like academia and the industry, to collaborate in training students to gain necessary skills they need for employment and entrepreneurship once they graduate. So I believe it is a continuous journey, as many of my colleagues have mentioned. Private sector and academia will have to continually work together to make sure that skills students gain during their academic journey prepare them to solve real-time problems facing our communities and nations.
Okay, so thank you so much, Donat, for responding, also for agreeing to share a bit of your expertise from our audience here. Like we said at the beginning of this session, we're just not here to network, but we are here to interact with our speakers, with ourselves, and most importantly, to network. So if you have seen anyone amongst the participants that you want to connect with, please feel free to do that. This is the perfect platform for you to get to know them. So Donat, we are running out of time. So we want you under a minute to give us your final recommendations for educational transformation. Then we note that down and we move to the other speakers for their final words as well. Thank you for everyone who has been on this call from the beginning. Please, just a little bit more patience and we'll be done with the session. And please, if you're enjoying the session, just share with us in the comment section as to what you think the most powerful points are. And also, if you have your own recommendations, please feel free to share them in the chat. Thank you. So Donat, can we hear you as you share your final words on educational transformation?
Well, thank you so much once again. My recommendation would be around innovation-driven education. So we are at a time when we are experiencing a shift in education and the demands of the labor market. And if we need to prepare employable, graduates, we need to make sure that we are including innovation. We are working with the industry, and we need to make sure that our curriculum are reviewed or developed in a close collaboration with our stakeholders.
Okay, thank
so
you. So
innovation-driven education is fundamental and should be considered from basic education to the higher education level.
Thank you so much, Donat. It's been really amazing listening to you and sharing your insights. We're really, really glad that you joined this call and shared your insights. And very soon we'll also be hearing from Mike from South Africa. So before we get to Mike, let's go back to Makala for her final words. By the way, the last point shared about disabilities are Rosie's final words, and she sends her regards to all of the participants. And if you want to connect with her in any way, she says, please feel free to reach out to the organizers of this program, and they would connect you to Rose on anything related to disabilities and disability advocacy. She's more than willing to help. So thank you, Rose, for sharing that as well. So we go back to you, Makala, for your final words on educational transformation in under a minute, so that we don't keep our participants too long. Yes. Makala, are you there? Okay. So before we hear from Makala, we go back to Ghana. Akua, please share your final words on educational transformation, especially to the UN, in under a minute. Okay. Yes. Okay, so Mnet, can we hear your final recommendations for educational transformation? Apologies for that network hitch. We've tried to avoid it, but here we are. So Mnet, please go ahead to share your final words. We are ending in a few minutes.
Thank you, Amina. I think we need to follow 4 steps to transform education in Africa. The first one is focus. So within focus, we need to involve all stakeholders, not only in education sector, in politics, in health, in government, in every sector. We need to involve for promotion of education. The second step should be approach. We need to identify the specific problem in that specific area to promote education. So it might be infrastructure problem, it might be system problem, it might be curriculum. So we need to have innovative approach. The third one is vision. So we need to clearly visualize what we need to achieve, and also we need to allocate adequate resource and budget for this realization of our plan. And the last one is quality assurance. As I said before, rather than opening education, rather than creating only access, rather than expanding a higher level of education, we need to create center of excellence and model education centers at all levels or at all cycles of education. Thank you.
Oh, that is really, really amazing. And you have hammered the nail on the head. Perfectly fit. Thank you, Mnet. And thank you for organizing your points. So we go back to Akua. Are you back on the call? Do we still have some network hitches? Okay, so now we are ready to hear the final words from Mike from South Africa. So Mike says, so Mike apologizes. He is from, what's your area again? Spell that again, in South Africa. He says, I am from South Africa. From which community? So he says, I don't think, firstly, South Africa is anywhere near reaching its SDG 4 target. He said, access to education is an extremely great challenge, even for students, and more than 80% of students have transport issues getting to schools. He said majority of them are Black and they're from rural areas. And infrastructure is also a major challenge in South Africa. So he says his major priority and his major recommendation for the UN for educational transformation, he says, is firstly, education financing. And I think that is a really powerful point. So far, we've not really hammered on education financing. Education is expensive. And so we have to finance the sector with not only infrastructure, but research as well. Thank you so much, Mike from South Africa. This is extremely powerful point. And he says, COVID-19 has also revealed how important it is to prioritize digital education. And this should not be a challenge for any child, not just in Africa, but across the globe as well. Thank you, Mike. That is a really powerful point. We've not been paying too much attention to education financing, and I am glad you brought that up. So now we go back to, okay, Gloria has also shared her final recommendations in the comments, and she says if you want to reach out to her, please feel free to do so as well. And Rose says she wants to rehammer on disability education once again. So we have almost come to the end of this session. Somebody is asking in the comment section if she can connect with those who are offering to help with the 60% practical curriculum. So anyone in the audience, please, if you have any recommendations, state it. Let's say it in under 2 minutes, and we are going to close for the day. So Salman Abdulwan says, my recommendation is we should use education as a tool to improve tolerance and unity in the society. History should also be intentionally taught, especially history of Africa, and it should take priority as opposed to European history. And then government should also prioritize grants. So ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of this session, please let me remind you that FlexiSAF Foundation, as you can see behind me, prides itself with providing educational solutions to the sector, especially in terms of innovation. We have a whole number of programs. We have the Accelerated Learning Program. We have programs where beneficiaries are able to pay their fees through waste. And I have also worked with Irene from Egypt on that. we have advocacy programs called the Walk for Education. So if you are in Nigeria or anywhere in Africa and you want to host a one-of-a-kind kind of advocacy initiative like the Walk for Education, please feel free to reach out to FlexiSAF Foundation. We have been sharing how you can reach us in the comment section. It's been a really enlightening session. And to conclude on what all of the speakers say, so our priority for educational transformation are going to center around this. From Egypt, we are going to prioritize, we are recommending to the UN that they should make education subsidized and more accessible. And then they should also create acquiring of life skills easily accessible. Then from Kenya, Rose says that we should also prioritize disability inclusion in all of our education system. And from Zambia, Makala shares with us that there is still challenges when it comes to accessing even basic and secondary education. So we can't even go to tertiary education yet. So we should prioritize access in terms of Zambia. And in Ethiopia, Mnet shared a lot of strong points. She says, firstly, there should be focus because we have been getting distracted here and there. And then all stakeholders must be involved in educational transformation. That is Mnet from Ethiopia. Teacher Peter from Uganda said something very powerful. He said, not a qualification-based education, but a solution-based education for the children, so that we are not only raising generation of children who have completed schools, but they are able to solve educational challenges, not only in their countries, but across the globe as well. And Donat also shares that his primary recommendation is an innovation-driven education. Akua from Ghana says that firstly, we should be able to say the truth as it is because she is a journalist. And secondly, and not only saying the truth as it is, we should be able to hold governments accountable and prioritize health education because there are several girls, she works with women and girls, and there are several girls that do not have the basic knowledge to even take care of themselves. And then we have Gloria from Tanzania says, we shouldn't hold ourselves back because we still have challenges with access, but we should also try to think of the globe and the strides that they are making so that while we are fighting access, we also provide educational technology for learning as well. So far, this is what we've been hearing from our speakers. It's been a really, really great session. Thank you everybody for joining. Once again, I have seen in the comments that people are asking, young advocates are asking, how can we join your Young Education Advocate program? Please feel free to send us a DM on Instagram or Twitter. If you have not already done that, please go to your social media handles, check out FlexiSAF Foundation and follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as well. You can subscribe to our channels. This recording is going to be made available on YouTube by Monday, and you can access the recording. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to work with us to help create the education that we so badly desire, and we will bring to you a report on this session as well. So anyone who we promise that we want to connect them to a speaker, please send us an email to info@flexisaf.org, info@flexisaf.org, or even to reach us quite early because info might take time for a response via email. You can just send us a direct message on social media and we'll be responding to you very shortly. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Donat. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Akua. Thank you, Teacher Peter. Thank you, Rose from Rwanda. Thank you, Makala from Zambia. Thank you, Irene from Egypt. Thank you, Mnet from Ethiopia. Once again, let me remind you that Mnet actually joined with not so much notice. Thank you, Mike Kosana from South Africa. And thank you, Muhammad Kamara from Guinea-Bissau, even though Muhammad has had a lot of network hitches and he has not been able to speak to us. And thank you so much, Donat from Rwanda, for your insights and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this meeting. Thank you so much for joining. And like we said, please follow us on social media so that you get access to this recording. We are also going to make a report available as well. So log on to our website as we shared in the comment section to subscribe to our reports and our newsletters so that you get access immediately. It's available. Thank you so much for joining. Bye, everyone. Bye. See you soon. Bye. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, thank you, Nelson. Thank you, Donat.
Bye.
It
Thank
was
you so
indeed a
much.
great
Thank
session. Thank you. Please unmute yourself and tell me where you're saying bye from. We would really like to see you. Isaac Malan, thank you so much. Please unmute yourself and say bye. Where are you connecting from? Edie?
This is Isaac Man connecting from Accra, Ghana.
Ah, Accra, Ghana. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
Amina, thank you. Well done. Proud of you always. Nimat is here.
Oh, thank you so much, Director. Thank you for joining. We are really glad to have you as a mentor as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'm connecting from Zaria.
Ah,
Raji Bello.
Oh, Raji Bello, thank you so much. It was nice having you here. Thank you. Thank you for your questions, everyone.
I am connecting from Cross River.
Ah, Cross River State. That's amazing. Thank you, Madam Eno. It's nice to have you here. Please connect with FlexiSAF Foundation. Yes, Madam Muhammad, Hafsat Muhammad, do you want to say something?
Thank you for this nice section.
Okay, thank
Very
you so
lovely,
much.
very enjoyable. I'm connecting from Abuja.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor James Katende. It's really nice to have you on the session. Please, thank you. Tell us where you're
I'm connecting from Windhoek, Namibia. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
that is amazing. Amazing from Namibia, all the way from Namibia. Please connect with us through FlexiSAF Foundation. Professor would also like to collect your recommendations for educational transformation. Thank you. We've not heard from Namibia today. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye. So we're just about to end the call. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you, Danielle Bricka. Thank you, Skilled Women Initiative. Thank you. Thank you, Saida. Bye-bye. Thank you. Kiskaye Eric. Very interesting name. Thank you. Thank you, Murja Bashir. Thank you, Jamia Abdul Kadir. Thank you, Ayodeji Keinde. It's really nice to have you on the session, and we look forward to connecting with you at FlexiSAF Foundation. Please go ahead to follow us on social media. Thank you, Salman, for your very nice words as well. Thank you, everyone. So final words. Bye-bye.